Welcome to Secure Management Faculties, where your mind is key before you unlock what is seen. Secure Agent Dreyfuse. All right, as the usual standard on the channel, you know what to do. Click below. If you have a firearm that you don't need, hit the sell your guns link. Finally, follow the prompts. Sell that usable or used disposable gun that you don't want. Get some extra currency. Today's topic will be simply about the weak man's deadly force. What do I mean by weak man's deadly force? I'm referring to the capacity of the self-righteous that appear to be self-righteous, but literally may be in a state of what I would consider to be a dysfunctional condition of being right. I've touched briefly on this in some points indirectly in previous videos, but I want to highlight some specifics and what I mean by self-righteous and that self-righteous person that may be lost in their undiscovered tandem of the specific emotions they feel that they divulge amongst others, whether in the form of groups or specific targeting practices that I substantially don't necessarily agree with. Now, this is not to branch out a specific or a set amount of people. This is just acknowledging the person that is considerably less psychologically ready to bear conditions when they hit their limit. So, just as a quick reference pool, I was going through some comment sections on some previous content, not my content, but some content of some other channels that I was looking at. And so anyway, the conversation came up about school shootings, and it was this subgroup comparison to the primary group that was just showing a lot of sympathy and maybe some empathy about how it shouldn't happen. But it was a subgroup of people under a specific comment that were banding together collectively, and what they've all agreed upon is that they were all introverted and being the quiet types, if you will, that may have been psychologically bullied, whether you can say it's in a workplace, previously in a past school life, or whatever institutional platform based off a family condensed or consolidated unit, whether it's with brothers, cousins, or whatever, not. And so what these individuals were collectively agreeing upon, in short, was that they were all patting each other on the back saying, don't mess with the quiet guy because you'll know what happened. That's why we get all these shootings. Yeah, they were saying things like that in a perspective of respect. This is the good guy's time, and we can snap and hurt somebody too. That's basically the premise of what they were expressing in this specific comment section. And so I took the time to place my particular experience to that specific event that occurred in the comment sections, and I'm going to explain that same event or circumstance of experience, paraphrasing of course, just to give a rundown of my response to that. So I immediately tapped into the top, you always are when you become the new comment, and the comment itself did get some acknowledgement of awareness. That's the whole point, because the whole point of my intention was to shut down that comment section to give them guys something to think about the capacity of strength that they assume that they have. So here's the thing. I myself am personally an introverted person, but I have the capacity to socialize. And so the problem is that I'm no stranger, whether for instance in school context and or other contexts, you could say even the workplace, right? A form of social bullying, right? Not so much in my later life, like these years or whatever, whatnot. But let's just stick to school context, right? I was the classmate that wanted to sit in the back. I had no problem with sitting to the front when I chose to, but I wanted to sit in the back. Didn't necessarily want to chat too much about something that was unnecessary, but I wasn't a social picker to sort of divide myself in a clan or a circumference group that made me feel comfortable, that segregated me from my peers. But I wanted to be segregated because I seen that those segregations were taking place. I select specific groups of people that I would consider to be down to earth to a significant standpoint, that they would be as imposing to the surrounding environment, that will create me to have to put on a facade. And so these people, whoever they were selectively selected, right? And regardless if we're talking about in the workplace or we're talking about a previous school institutionalized place, the principle is still the same. I was introverted, and I necessarily did not want to be social, even though I had the capacity to. But when those social discriminating things happen, whether it be via workplace, via school, or via, you can say, a meeting place amongst a associate gathering, right? The point is, I've never fallen into myself, condensing myself to the pressures of not being accepted by a specific group of people or circumstances, and then I want to return to hurt or harm people. And this is where we start to get into the self-defense category of it. If you've been psychologically attacked, right, and you're introverted, my response, especially from the environment that I came from, because it goes by many different names. You know, coming from the black community, not speaking to it as a whole, growing up, you have to learn how to take what they used to call dozens, jokes. You have to learn how to take basically being put on your ass, right? Whether it be socially or if you're in a skirmish or not. And so that was a basic undisclosed agreement, or should I could say that was a basic unspoken rule about what the environment will look like as far as the capacity of being psychologically fit to be able to sustain such indirect banter that may be what I would consider to say characteristically soul damaging. But my whole point is, these people, they have the tendency to continuously harbor their pains, whether it be from the opposite sex being denied from certain social groups, or being picked on because they let it go that far, or because they are actually impaired by the fear of the possibility of getting embarrassed or beaten, or because they have a lack of whatever femininity or masculinity that they're not imposing. And so this is all going into the category of obviously psychological defense. What I'm getting at here is that their answers, the social answers of these introverted or my fellow introverts, is to harm and destroy. And they're picking soft targets like they're doing at these schools, right? They're either collapsing on themselves and killing themselves, or they're abruptly exploding to the point where that explosion reaches a deadly force composure, and they're erupting on targets that necessarily probably shouldn't have inherited that concentration of focus. Now, just to conclude this, what makes them weak? The weakness is not in the deadly force. It's the application of using the deadly force as an excuse. If you are harmed and you feel like you need to impose that right, it's not being actively used in a deliberate or a distributed manner where it's balanced for the situation. In turn, you most likely grab this force multiplier or this highly advantaged tool, whether it be a gun, a bat, or whatever it is that multiplies you from the state of where you are, so you can have the advantage to impose the frustrations on whatever group, people, or persons that may have harmed you in your current path. But what I'm getting at is that me being from the introvert predominantly, my first answer was not to harm others. Even when I was put in situations where I was outnumbered, after the survival was happening, after I survived, the answer for me and the answer for many others should be simply get stronger. Get stronger psychologically, get stronger physically, get stronger to the capacity of moving your operative self to be better. Because what's happening is that you're giving yourself to the concept and the actual action of using such deadly force on targets that may have nothing to do with the inherent start of your problem, but you're imposing your will through an aspect of not only, like I said, a tool or some sort of amplifier. You still don't have the confidence or strength to impose or to even stand up for yourself without that multiplier that makes you feel the confidence in the first place. And so this is what I was seeing in the comment section that was talking about what not to do to these good guys, right? Or what not to do to these guys that are maybe society or societal acknowledged to be this good guy until he snaps. And that is unfortunate that this group of people believe that, because you're basically only tough when you're stimulated full of endorphins, adrenaline, and anger and frustration, where you don't have to be accountable for your actions that you do when you're using your deadly force. All right, secure management faculties, when your mind is key before you unlock what is seen. Secure Agent Dreyfus. Again, I appreciate everyone who was observant to listen to this content as far as the weak man's deadly force. There will be more content as usual. Remember, scroll to the bottom, hit that drop down tab, and hit the sell your guns link. Distribute that weapon. You already know the West. Until next time, appreciate it.